What's going on? Boom, boom. So I'm streaming to YouTube and Instagram Live. Perfect. I'll give it just a minute for some more people to join, and then we'll get to it. By the way, if you belong to one of the many Telegram groups I am in, feel free to post on there and say, hey, join. Let's get some more people in here. The more questions, the better. Thank you. What's going on, guys? Today I am in semi-beautiful Minneapolis. No offense to anyone that lives here. Just got off a flight and just got to the hotel probably about 5 minutes ago. So obviously you are all important, which is why I'm doing this so quickly as opposed to taking a nap or doing something else. All right, guys. I actually live in LA, but I do not think I will be at the Jet Set party for this round. What's going on, Rick, the legend, Mr. Mayor? Are you going to be at the party, Kay? Hi guys, if you can hear me, put a number one, as in your number one, in the chat, or just chat a number one for me no matter what platform you're on. I want to make sure everyone can hear me from both platforms. Boom, boom, boom. Ones and ones. The new microphone works. I love it because it was expensive, so I'm glad it works. Oh, and awesome. I'm glad you're going to be able to make it there. That's going to be a huge event. It's going to be awesome. Lots of people to mastermind with, so I think you're going to get a lot out of it. All right, guys, so I am going to jump into it. More people will obviously join. A lot of people will watch the recording since we have people in the Telegram group from all over the world. I've been talking to people from Africa on there, from Germany, from obviously United States, all over the U.S., South Korea, one in Tahiti, which I'm totally jealous of their life and the views, what they get to enjoy every day. So obviously all over the place. If you have not joined the Telegram group and you are interested in learning about e-commerce in any sort of way, as you guys know, I do quite a few different things, but that is one of the things that I do is e-commerce, and I think I do it very well. And so if you're not in that group already, please jump into it. There is a link on my bio that you can just click on. I don't want your email address. I'm not trying to sell you anything from there. I simply just want you to be able to share knowledge, and that's what that group is mainly for, is for everybody to share knowledge and to be able to test things without you having to take the slow learning route yourself every single time. During this webinar, as I go through, by the way, whether it's related to something I'm talking about, whether it is related to just a question you have in general, post it in here. I'm going to go back at the end. I'm going to review them all. I will spend the last probably about 5 to 10 minutes talking about a different project I'm working on. Again, not selling you guys anything, not pitching you guys anything. Just when I come across really cool things, I want to make sure you guys are aware of them. So anyway, I definitely want to get started in this. So one of the things I did say I was going to talk about for this particular webinar was going to be liquidity in business and also funds. So I think a common question that people get started or that get started in drop shipping or e-commerce sales or really any type of business where you're purchasing and delivering is, where do I get that money? Where does that money come from to purchase these items ahead of time? And that money is essentially coming from the customer purchasing it, but you do need to be able to pay for it ahead of time as well. So what I mean by that is that's one of the great things about drop shipping, right? Or even reselling in some cases. So if somebody, let's say I have a store and I am selling, I don't know, a heart necklace, for example, and I put that heart necklace on my store, and one of my customers buys it. Well, they pay me my $20, and so now I have my $20. But the problem is, unless they paid with PayPal, you're probably not going to get that $20 right away. You're going to get it, but just not right away. Depending on what payment platform you use, it might take a couple days. So even though you're going to get that money back, usually within 4 or 5 days, you still need to be able to have the money up front to be able to purchase that necklace or to purchase whatever it is that you have on your store that you're advertising, or that is just listed in general. You need to have the funds up front to be able to purchase that. What you don't want to do is make a very common mistake and wait. So some people wait and they say, oh, I'm just going to wait for the funds to clear and then I'm going to order. Well, that's great, but especially when you're doing drop shipping, maybe not so much reselling, like if you're reselling from your home, but when you do drop shipping, I mean, you're already waiting 2 to 3 weeks for those items to be delivered, plus processing time, depending on how long your vendor takes. And then you're going to also make them wait until your payment clears. I mean, that's going on 4 or 5 weeks, and that's a very long time. And although some customers will wait for that, a lot will be unhappy, and that's not really a great way to build a brand. So it is critical that you do have some money up front to be able to make those purchases, and also pay attention to what you're advertising through as well. So if you're doing an advertisement with, like, I don't know, say you're doing Instagram influencers or something, and you're doing some sort of advertisement with them where it's going to promote for 12 hours, and they've had great results so far, and you're like, oh my God, I can actually probably get a bunch of sales out of this. Like, you're expecting to get a ton of sales, right? The last thing you want to do is not have enough money to start buying that stuff up front. So you do need to make sure you do have some money up front. And that's why credit and all that stuff is great. You can either have the funds already, you can have it in like a PayPal account, you can have it in a bank account. Another way is, obviously if you're over 18, you can do like a credit card, a business credit card. I do like that idea, and I'm not here to give you guys financial advice or anything like that. But I do like the idea of a credit card, for example. As I started to scale, I started using two different things. One, I used the PayPal debit card, and then I use a business credit card. Doing that allows me to do two things. The PayPal debit card gives me, I forget what it gives me. I signed up under some promotional rate, but maybe it's like 2%. It's something small, but either way, it's like 1 or 2% cash back. Maybe it's 5, I forget. But either way, I get that cash back on every purchase that I make. And so at the end of the month, especially, someone doing a lot of volume like me, I have a ton of money that I'm earning back at the end of the month through the cash back. Credit cards, for example, are great because if you have a credit card, even though it is a credit card, so, be careful of that, you can earn points, you can earn miles, whatever the credit card does for you, cash back, depending on what kind of credit card you have, and then pay it off. Now, again, I'm not here to give credit advice. I will suggest, in my opinion, that if you do make purchases, that you are paying it off the moment you get the money or at the end of the month. So that way you're not paying, especially if your credit card has interest, you're not throwing money away in the interest for no damn reason. So I would encourage you to pay it off right away. There's a lot of back and forth as to, oh, I should always leave a balance on my card. I shouldn't. I can tell you I've worked with a lot of people with really good credit. I've worked with people with a lot of money, and they all state that they pay their credit card off right away. It's just making purchases on it, so that way their limits will always increase. So again, that's another alternative to doing something like that, and I do suggest doing those. And credit cards, again, are also great because if you don't have the money up front, you can get the credit card, you can make a purchase on the credit card if you're over 18, and then once you get the money in about 7 days, you can pay off what you purchased on the credit card, and then you can continue to repeat that cycle, really never technically using your own money to make those purchases. So if they don't pay through PayPal and you do use Shopify as a platform, I know other people use WooCommerce in their own sites and stuff. Shopify does take about 3 to 5 days. I know for a large amount of accounts recently, they've changed the schedule to being, I think, like 2 business days unless it falls on a weekend or a holiday. But I would always safely assume, as a generic statement, 3 to 5 days is how long they're going to take to deliver it to you. So paying very, very close attention, obviously, to your finances. You don't want to end up with $1,000 on your credit card and then not have any money coming in. But those are options, and those are things to consider. Again, a big issue is people come in, they think, oh, well, I'm just going to wait, and you don't want to wait. Another thing I want to talk about, by the way, I'm bouncing up and down because apparently this hotel has a super bouncy chair, and it's kind of fun. So, uh, next thing I want to talk about scaling. So, when you're looking at scaling ads, whether they're Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, I think scaling is always great when you realize that it could your whatever it is that you're running, whatever that advertisement is, or whatever platform you're trying to run through. Once you realize that's starting to do very well and well enough to where you're making a profit, scale, right? And that's the very simple version. So, for example, on Facebook, right? One of the things I do with Facebook, if I'm just running Facebook ads, not the Instagram influencer portion of it, I'll run a view content, I'll mature my pixel, I'll do an add to cart. Usually I'll try to get about 50 add to carts, and then I'll move it over to a purchase pixel. Now, with my purchase pixel, if it's not profitable, I'll change my audience, or I'll change the ad, or I'll do something to continue testing different alternatives, because obviously there's a problem and I don't want to run an ad that isn't profitable. On the other side of things, if the ad is doing well and I move it over to purchase, and if you're profitable, automatically I would just jump that up. I would jump it up to $10 if you're running $5, or $20 if you're running $10, right? And run that for a day or two and make sure that's profitable. If it's not profitable, maybe scale it back down. And I would continue to rev up that number until you get it. I mean, there have been items where I started with 5. In fact, I can even tell you there's one right now. It's a holiday item. I started running it at 5, and it did okay. It did enough like per week to make me profitable. But now as we're starting to get closer to Halloween and the holidays and things like that, and this is again a holiday item, I can see that one, besides getting closer to the actual holiday, which it's relevant for that niche, in addition to that, it's also starting to pick up. So my ad is starting to make me significantly more than it's costing me. For example, my profit margin after even running the ads, I think is like $95 on this item, which is fantastic, right? And that's assuming they don't get anything extra or add-ons or anything like that. And since I'm making that much money, I know, okay, well, even if I ran $80 worth of ads, figuring I'm only doing like $5 or $10 worth of ads right now, I'm going to scale that up and I'm going to run $80 worth of ads. And I'm going to see where that takes me. And putting in my $80, just like it did last year with other items that I've done and throughout the year, that should get me a significant return to make it so, even though I'm spending 80 now, that I'm more profitable, right? And I want to scale the hell out of that thing. And again, that's another reason why credit cards, having money ahead of time, those types of things are great, because if you're strapped for cash and you have like, oh, I only have $200 to start the store, again, you can do it, but the problem is when you're trying to get any further and maybe you need to scale and you're going to run $50 a day ads on Facebook or something, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be too scared to do it, right? You're not going to have that confidence in taking that risk because that's all the money you have, and you're going to be worried that you're not going to have a store anymore if it fails. So being able to have those other alternatives, again, side stash of cash, credit, etc., in order to build on that is phenomenal, and I can tell you it does amazing things for your store as you're going through it. So the next thing is if you're using Instagram influencers, same thing, right? So if an Instagram influencer does really well for you, people often ask, well, I'm not going to be a part of, I'm not going to do it anymore, right? They did really well, I'm going to move on and find a different one. No, try them out again and test different things. If you have an Instagram influencer that does well, test them again. Try the same day at the same time. Try a different day at a peak time. Try 24 hours. Try a different type of post. Try different ad copy, right? That Instagram influencer showed they could be profitable. Now scale with them and scale until you beat the living hell out of their people and the ad's basically dead, and then you need to move on to somebody else and then maybe come back later, right? But it's very important that when you get that opportunity and an item is doing really well for you, that you are scaling immediately. Too many people are afraid to take that risk. And so, yeah, they're profitable. Oh, I made $80 today. But little do they know, if they would have just spent $100 or $150 or something like that, then they would be making thousands per day as opposed to like 80 per day or 50 or whatever the number is, right? Because they're afraid to scale. Another way of scaling and growing your advertisements is also through lookalike audiences on Facebook. So usually if you're doing Instagram influencers, say you haven't done Facebook ads or you just haven't felt comfortable with those and started those yet, if you're using if you use lookalike audiences under the Facebook ads platform, under Business Manager, if you've set one of those up, hopefully you have with the pixel and everything already set up. Once you get about 100 purchases, and some people will say 50, some will say 1. It doesn't. I don't know. Mine's 100 just to be safe. But once you get about 100 purchases from Instagram influencers, you can run a very targeted lookalike audience where Facebook will basically, and that's what a lookalike audience is, by the way, is Facebook will basically say, okay, here's all the people that took this action on your site that you're trying to replicate. Now let me find people that are very similar that are also likely to take that same action or be interested in that same thing or sign up for that same mailing list or whatever it is that you're looking to do. So lookalike audiences, after about 100 purchases from Instagram influencers, in my opinion, I'll usually run a lookalike audience for them, and then I'll start running Facebook ads and make a ton of money from Facebook ads. And there's a lot of successful people that I know that have done that, that don't even run or hadn't even run regular Facebook ads to start off with. They just ran the lookalike audiences. On the flip side of things, if you're running Facebook ads already and you've gotten quite a few purchases, you can run a lookalike ads on people that made purchases on that item as well. Say your ad starts to die, right? Even if you scaled it up, maybe you didn't. You're noticing, oh, what the hell's going on? I made a couple purchases and people bought stuff and now it's starting to go down, right? You can make a lookalike ad based on people that made purchases of that item, and you can range them. I prefer about 2 to 4 million on an audience size when you're using lookalike audiences. I know Facebook, because of the new system and platform, it might say it's a little bit too broad. It's not. And trust me, they are working on that. I try to call Facebook at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks if I'm super busy, and just talk to them about new features and ask them questions and try to get a walkthrough. I mean, I spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, so I want to make sure, and I'm sure they want to make sure that I understand everything and that they work with me. So, once you get enough purchases on something like that, you can also run a lookalike audience, and then you can start targeting other people. And again, you can either scale while running your regular ads, or if your regular ads are dying, that's another alternative. Is it better to focus your store around one item or general store? If you're going to focus your store on one item, it needs to be a very branded item. So what I mean by that is I sold a pen thingy that was basically had like a laser level on it, and it had like another level on it, and then it had like a tape measure on it. It was like an 8-in-1 pen basically. And I branded that specifically for people in construction, people that did contracting, people that did renovating and flipping of houses. Those were my audiences. And I forget what I named the pin. God, that was like when I first started. But either way, I branded the actual pin itself. And that was the one item I sold on my store, right? Because that's all it was. It was just a brand. It was almost like a landing page, and boom, there it was. Now, on the flip side of things, if you're not going to be branding an item yourself and you just see something cool you want to sell, I would not suggest just putting one item on your store. Again, not that other people haven't been successful with it, but the chances of success with it are a lot smaller. And the reason is people just don't trust things that are on one store, right? They're already going to a weird website they haven't heard of to buy maybe a brand they haven't heard of, to one, and also shopping online in general on an impulse buy, but then also to see a site that only has like one item on it that maybe looks like it should have a few. They're probably going to be a little confused, and they probably won't end up purchasing from you. You might have a lot of abandoned carts, something like that. So I would encourage you either to go branding one item. Boom, that's it. I'm branding my one item. I am making that the focus of my store because it is unique. It is awesome. I know who my target is. Or I would go the niche route where you have quite a few items on your store. You're doing, my favorite example, so I keep using it, Siberian Huskies, right? Obviously I want a Husky, but everything in my store is Siberian Husky related. That's a niche. Some people go, well, what about dogs? Dogs is a niche. What about cosmetics? Cosmetics is a niche. No, those are categories. And a lot of people don't talk about categories, but those are categories. Those are easier to do than a general store, more targeted to do than a general store, but those are not niches. Now, maybe cosmetics for people that love doing, artistic effects makeup, stuff like that. Now, that would be a niche, but cosmetics in general is a category. Makeup would be a general store type of thing. So Being very careful on what you define with that. And then general store on the other side just could have a bunch of items. General stores are a little bit harder to target audiences on, but I do like them. I do prefer them. There's a lot of people that disagree with me and say you should do a niche only store. For those of you that have been on these before, you know me, and I've said it a couple different times. I have a general store. That's where I test all my items. And then if a group of items do well, then I'll go ahead and make a niche store out of that. And then I'll make profits from that, and then eventually sell it. Because I do end up selling my stores after about a year. I always start with general store. So anyone that hates general stores, trust me, they are harder to mature the pixels when you're looking at Facebook. They're harder to find lookalike audiences for and to make, especially when you're trying to just do one for the store. And they're also harder to brand. But it does give you a bigger ability to test whatever the hell you want to test. And if you ever wanted to change and just flip the whole store, then that's easier to do with the general store too. So all work. I did want to make sure I'm clarifying, because that's something I also very commonly see is everyone's like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, that's not a niche though. So, make sure you know what you're targeting and what the keywords are for what you're trying to do. Let's see. The general store, yeah, I mean, that's the problem is a lot of people I see with general stores, especially now when, like, if you're just starting, I see like 50 fidget spinners and some other items and like a 301 keychain, and it's like everybody has those. And I'm not going to say you're not going to make sales on them, because you probably will. And realistically, I believe that any of those items you have in your store, if you market it and you advertise it correctly, you're going to sell it. I don't care how generic it is. I don't care if it's a free plus shipping watch that everyone talks crap on all the time, because you always see those and they're drop shipped. But if it's advertised correctly and in an exciting way, people will still buy it. But that means you got to be more unique. When it comes to finding items, I just try to find things that aren't the ones I always see online. And again, I try to break them down by something that's either useful or something that's very like passionate, where if somebody saw that, I'm like, oh, somebody would need to have that right away. And then I kind of target from there. I look at good reviews, I look at bestsellers, and I also just look at other Facebook ads. I mean, look, I'm not stealing other people's items if they're drop shipping it anyways. If I see a Facebook ad and it has a crap ton of likes and shares and view contents and all that stuff, I'm going to assume that they're not just spending $100 a day on that ad that's making them no money. I'm going to assume it's making them money, so I'm going to steal it. And I'm going to sell that exact same item, especially if it's kind of unique and cool. I'm going to sell it on my store, and it's going to make me money. And it has made me money, and that process has worked. So I would say just be careful and stay away from the generic stuff you see on everybody else's store. And I know it's kind of a general answer, but I mean, that's kind of the best I can give in this kind of case. First thing to do as a drop shipper is, I would say it's make the choice. I mean, not to pull a mindset on you, but it's make the choice that it's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of effort, and you're probably not going to make money right away. Now you might. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't. So really just having that mindset of I'm not going to make a lot of money right away, but I'm going to grind until I do, that's huge. Physical wise, first thing to do is start looking at products, start maybe scribbling down some ideas. If you want to do a niche store, if you want to do a general store, maybe some products you want to do. I always suggest doing that, and then going and getting the Shopify website, and then building your store and kind of going from there. That way you can make the most out of your Shopify, especially if you're going like through my link or whatever, you get a 14-day free trial. I know they have other trials that might be 14 days as well now. But either way, you can make the most of your free trial time as opposed to trying to figure everything out while your free trial is running out. See, when creating influencer ads, do you create an obvious ad with text and price, or do you just put up a good pic and website shown? So it depends on what kind of influencer ad. There are quite a few. So there's ones where they post, in which case usually they link them back to my profile. Usually I'll have them tag my page in their post. It's just some text, clearly shows what the image is, and then it also has a very crisp, clean, attractive image. Something vibrant. Usually it's like, oh, I really want that, with a passion statement on it. I don't usually put the price on those. With the shout outs, same thing. Usually I will request they have a swipe up link. they should have one. I don't really use influencers under 10,000 anyways. Most people over 10,000 have the swipe up link. So I do ask them to put a swipe up link. Again, very crisp image, something that says swipe up to get yours today, whether it's on the post before, the post after, or that same post, and then again, a crisp, clear image. I don't typically put the price on anything, actually, unless it is a free pay shipping only. Then I'll do just pay shipping or something like that on there. But I still don't put the price. I don't put the price of shipping, anything like that. Yeah, I mean, if you can still make a good profit and use affiliates to market your store, I mean, go for it. I mean, the biggest brand names out there use affiliate marketing, and some people see affiliate marketing and they're like, that's MLM. Well, first of all, MLM's not fraud either. It's just another type of business. I'm not a big I'm not a big I'm not big into it, right? I don't do it. But also it's not like a pyramid scheme or anything. And some people see affiliate marketing and they go, oh no, that's not right either. I mean, Amazon uses affiliate marketing. I think Walmart uses affiliate marketing. There's all the big brands out there. I mean, a ton of them all use affiliate marketing. So if you can find a way to tie in affiliate marketing and do it effectively so you still remain profitable on whatever you're selling, hell yeah. I mean, it's just another tool for you, and you don't have to do a lot of the work, right? They pretty much bring you the orders. Yes, you lose part of the profit, but that might have been profit you lost in the ad anyway. So you're not doing anything. They're doing all the work, and you're the one getting the money. So why not? What's the best way to market your products? Influencers, Instagram, Facebook ads. There is no best way. Plain simple there. So we'll start there. No best way to advertise your stuff. Now, there are a bunch of good ways. Do I recommend Instagram influencers? Oh, absolutely. You'd be amazed at how much money you can make, and you'd be amazed at how much money you can waste. Do I recommend Facebook ads? Yes. That's where probably probably about 80% now, because I have jumped a lot into Instagram influencers, but probably where 80% of my profit and revenue comes from is through Facebook ads, though they are a little bit harder and more difficult to get down. Instagram ads, I know some guys that kill it with Instagram ads. Personally, I don't use those very much. I have had success with probably one item. I think it's one item. Yeah, I've had one item that does really well. Usually I encourage people that if they're going to use Instagram ads, that they do, again, use a very good photo. In addition to that good photo, they do have like one line of text, maybe two lines. Try not to write too much, unless you're trying to advertise something that's experiential, like a software program, or you're trying to get people to sign up for like your website or something like that. Then maybe you can tell a story in there. But if it's just a product, I would do a quick excerpt or maybe two, separated with like a line that you set up in your Notes app if you have an iPhone or somewhere else, and then copy and paste it into there. And then obviously have it go to the link. Don't have it go to your store, because it's one less place to go. And then Twitter, that's a good question actually. So there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter, and I actually haven't seen a lot of success on Twitter from anybody. And I always want to clarify, that's not to say it can't be done, it's not to say it won't be done, and I mean, who knows, maybe it's an untapped market that you can master and you can school all of us in. But a lot of big names that I've been in contact with just unfortunately haven't had a lot of luck with Twitter. I haven't had a lot of luck with Twitter. But another one that you didn't mention on there is Snapchat. Snapchat, even though there is a waiting period and you have to get approved to do it, they do have an advertising platform, not as specific or great as Facebook ads, for example, but it is still pretty great in the way that it allows you to narrow down audiences, and there are quite a few people now making good money with Snapchat ads for their items and directing people to the store. So that's another alternative. But if you're going to do that, as I would recommend in general, of course, too, make sure that you have a mobile-friendly site. Everything looks great pulled up on mobile, because if you don't, then you're pretty much going to lose all of that. So let's see. Are there any Shopify apps that you think are key to multiplying earning potential? I do. Actually, I have quite a few apps, but the problem is when people get started, they think they need like 500 apps. You don't. You really don't. I mean, there are a few I recommend, especially because they have free trials. So why the hell not have them? Um, but yeah, you don't need 500 million apps. You can use apps and grow the apps as you scale. Some big ones that I do recommend is AfterShip or Order Lookup. Those two are great because they allow the customer to look up your order, or sorry, look up their order on your website. So as opposed to you, especially if you're drop shipping, as opposed to you giving them some Chinese website or something for them to go to and they can't read half of it and they're using Google Translate and then they type it in, it shows it's coming from all these weird places in China and customs. This one will put it on your site, tell them exactly where it is or where it's coming from. And then that way they're not being redirected somewhere else. And then they can look it up by like order number and email address or however it is that you end up setting your app. But AfterShip and then Order Lookup by Vinitove or something like that, I believe it's called. Those are great ones. Another one is Yotpo. And again, there's alternatives to these ones. These are just ones I use. Yotpo is free. It's yotpo.com. That is a review site. It's great because it emails your customers to have them leave a review. You can manage the reviews. So obviously if they didn't have a good experience, as much as you don't want to be deceitful, you can unpublish that from your website so that doesn't show on there. Really great review tool overall, and it shows on your website underneath the items or wherever you want to put it. Let's see, what else? There's one called Boost Sales app, and I know there's a few other out there, but Boost Sales app is huge. I like Boost Sales app because, especially when you have a lot of items, I think if you just have one item on your store and you're just rolling with the one item, probably not. But basically, it does the recommended items. You know, for example, like I'm sure if you've ever gone through a website and you bought shoes, it goes, hey, we glad you bought these shoes. We recommend that you also buy these socks, or other customers have purchased blah, 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 blah. Or you can also do an option where it's, hey, add $10 more to your cart and get 20% off, or whatever it is you set up, your entire order, right? And those are very motivational, like kind of psychological things that work well with consumers. And so I like Boost Sales app. Again, I'm sure there's some other ones out there now. And I know there's actually other ones out there now, but that one's actually been the most cost effective for everything that it does, which is why I like it. There is a free trial. And then it also has the least expensive monthly program that I've been able to find so far, which is also why I like it. I mean, why spend more money where you don't have to? Let's see. Another one I use is Beautiful Abandoned Cart emails for anyone that abandons their cart. That way I send them an awesome email that tries to get them back, because the last thing you want to do is lose a customer. You can offer some sort of incentive in there. I believe it's free for like 2 weeks. And then although I am trying to find an alternative to them because I am a little upset with Oberlo right now, Oberlo.com is also great if you're just starting. Not necessarily mandated, but it is free if you're fulfilling under a certain amount of orders per month, and then the plans are pretty inexpensive if you decide to roll with a plan. But the fact it's free if you're shipping, I think like under 50 per month or something like that, is fantastic. It allows you to basically automatically pull all the data from AliExpress onto your Shopify store in one click. You can, obviously I want you to edit it if you're going to do that to make it look more appealing, but in one click you can basically order the entire product from anyone that orders it by using Oberlo, especially if you use the Chrome extension. And then in another click you can have all the shipment details sent to your Shopify store and then sent to the customer. So Oberlo makes things so much easier as opposed to having to fill out orders manually one by one. Not necessarily needed, I guess, if you have only a few orders, and it's good to learn how to do. But it's free, so why the hell not? And again, over AfterShip, I saw a question on there, Order Lookup. It's just simply Order Lookup. It's by Vennntov. I had to write it down so I didn't forget it. They are a great app as well. Let's see. Do I have an accountant? I do. Well, kind of. I have a tax lawyer. You know, a lot of questions, or one question I get often is, which is actually frustrating as hell for me to see, is people always go, well, do I need an LLC? And everyone's like, no, you don't need one of those. Wait. Well, you don't. It's true. You don't need an LLC to start. You can do a sole prop. You can call it a C Corp. You can do whatever the hell you want with your thing. LLCs are great for the reason that, one, they protect you. So if you were going to do some shady shit and you were going to try to, you know, market or sell items that are licensed, like for example, any of you guys that send me your stores and tell me to look at them that have FUBU, Nike, Adidas, all that stuff on there, that is illegal. From Disney. If you got caught, you would have some very heavy fines, some very heavily worded cease and desist letters. It would not be good times. I've gotten one. Trust me, it sucks. So I would avoid those. But if you're doing something like that, for example, or just in general, having an LLC would protect your personal assets in case anyone were to come after your company or your company were to be held liable for one reason or the other. Another great reason, again, not here to give tax advice, but if you ran yourself under an LLC, you could, if you have a good tax person that you work with, they will find ways to make sure you pay the least amount of taxes as possible by setting up certain bubbles. For example, like I have a C Corp, which is Shane Conrad, or whatever it's called. I'm not going to put it out on here, but I have that. Then I have LLCs underneath them, and then those all funnel to me as an income, and it's some crazy stuff that tax lawyers and tax accountants and financial planners and all of them can set up for you. So people always go, oh, you don't get an LLC, that's stupid, they're useless. So they're not useless. Anyone that tells you an LLC is absolutely useless, I'm not going to say they're dumb, but they don't know enough about tax law, and they're giving advice on something they're not an expert in, or they don't know enough about to be giving advice in. So the simple answer is no, you don't need one. The more trivial answer is you should get one, because the tax benefits, especially again if you're a U.S. citizen, are huge if you're using an LLC and you were using an accountant or somebody that knows what they're doing. For influencers, do you target pages, the niche or people? I target niches for items. Sometimes I do people if they're a little bit relevant. Obviously, if I'm selling something that's related to surfers or related to water, and there's a surfer influencer, it's a person, I'll probably use him. Sunglasses, you can kind of get away with stuff like that. For the most part, though, I will use a niche page for niches. Usually software, branding, personal stuff. I'll usually go to the personal pages for those ones, because people relate better with people, and so that's why, for psychological reasons, I'll do that. How do state federal taxes apply to my Shopify store? They just do. Again, I can't legally give you tax advice on that kind of stuff, nor tell you how they do, because it'll also depend on your state. But they do, and Shopify does send your income to the IRS, as is PayPal if you use PayPal. So I would encourage you, obviously, to report any earnings and any losses and be very smart and consult someone, if not yourself, or a friend or family or internet or whatever it is that your professional is, to make sure you are handling your taxes appropriately. But I would also very much recommend not to try to hide it from the government, because Shopify sends it to them. How much money do you need to start a new store, including ads, monthly fees, apps? So I'll preface this by saying I know people that have started a Shopify store, and they've started it with $200 and they failed. And I've known some that have started it with $200 and they have some really impressive and almost unbelievable incomes. So that being said, I recommend usually about $500 to $700. And the reason for that, again, not to say you can't start it with less than that, is because it's going to give you good wiggle room. And like for anyone that was on a little bit earlier, I think a big fear that a lot of people have is, one, starting something, and two, losing money by starting something, right? I know there's a ton of people on here that if I said, hey, if I give you $10 million, what would you do? And you'd be like, oh my God, I'd go start this business I've always wanted to do. In fact, there was a friend I was just talking to the other day. I said, if I gave you $10 million and I said you had to spend it on something, what would you spend it on? And of course, they're like car, house, and things that are stupid. Not stupid, but just don't have good, return on investment. But one of them was like, I'd also start a business. I'm like, well, why don't you start the business now? Well, I don't want to lose the money, right? I'm too afraid to lose my income. So having that $500 to $700, I think, is a good platform to get you started. It's a good platform for, in the case that if you mess up, you're not strapped for cash. You don't only have 1 month to succeed or you're doomed, because that's not motivational. In addition, it gives you the ability to scale. So let's say you do really well on month 1, 2, or 3. Now you have extra funds to maybe scale that out a little bit and test something new in order to make even larger amounts of money than what you've already been able to make. So I would suggest somewhere between the $500 to $700 route, but again, people have done it with less, so it's okay. What else? I think I'm all caught up on questions. Here's one up here. There are different platforms I recommend for engagement. The question was, are there any platforms you recommend for engagement or growing engagement? There are a few out there, especially when it comes to like Instagram and stuff. You don't necessarily need to build your Instagram page before you start advertising on it. Again, I do recommend, if you're using influencers in particular, that you direct them to your site directly as opposed to your page, because that adds extra steps. And if you have a smaller page, then it could be a little bit less trustworthy, I guess. But you don't necessarily need one. But there are other things out there that help you grow that, and also could help grow your influence. There's automation programs out there. I know there's a ton of them. There's one called Jatch, which Team Jet Set used to be a part of. They might still be, I think, but just in case, I'm going to say used to be. So there's one like that. There's influencer engagement groups called Zengage, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So different things like that could help grow the Instagram as well. I wouldn't encourage you to buy fake followers, mostly because I think today it's common, I mean, not commonly known, but it is very well known that, if you have even 5,000 followers and you only have like 50 likes, then your followers are probably purchased. And those followers can get really expensive, especially if you're purchasing close to real ones. So I would avoid that and just take the more natural routes, because that way you're going to get a more targeted audience anyways. What website do I use for my domains? Yeah, there's a lot of shady ones out there. There's a lot of good ones. I mean, holy crap, I probably have a list somewhere of like 50 of them. I use GoDaddy. It's not that expensive, honestly, depending on what kind of domain you're going for. And I know it's trusted, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. And they always have some sort of deal where you can get like $1 for a year, or you can find some sort of discount on coupons.com or some crap. I got into drop shipping after I sold my first company and had some extra money that I wanted to play with. And one of my buddies had already done this, and in exchange for getting him onto Ty Lopez's mailing list, because we had worked together on something in the past, he was going to teach me everything he knew about drop shipping. So we exchanged the service of, hey, I'll help you get in touch with Ty's people in order to be on that mailing list. In exchange, you will teach me, as much as you know about drop shipping. And this guy did like 25 million a year, and that's not an exaggeration. He did 25 million a year. So he was very good. And so anyways, that's how I got into it. And I didn't see a profit for probably a profit itself on the store. It took a while. It probably took 6-7 months before I actually stopped losing money and I actually made a sale. It took me 3 months before I made my first sale, which is why I'm glad that a lot of other people have done it. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of fake people out there now. There's a lot of fake coaches. There's people that have done one and dones and have gotten lucky and now preach like they know everything about drop shipping, right? And you got to be careful of those, and they're hard to spot out because you can't tell a lot of the times whether or not they're factual. There are some out there that I know for a fact have succeeded one time, right? And not necessarily gotten lucky because they did the right thing, but they don't do it anymore, and it hasn't been able to be replicated in what they did. But now they do coachings and more coachings and stuff like that, and people are paying for that. So you really, you always got to be careful of what's out there and what you're doing. But I think there's so much knowledge out there now, especially if you're part of this X-commerce group, where they're going to teach just so much knowledge is going to be dropped there from a lot of people that know what they're doing. But being able to get that kind of knowledge and get the free knowledge out there, you probably wouldn't be in the same position as I was in 2013, 2014, when I started, of holy crap, I'm learning it all. I'm just going to lose a crap ton of money on Facebook ads, right? The influencer ads and all that stuff are out there now. So I think there's less ways to lose money now, than there were before. And I encourage you just to use every resource you can and always be learning, right? That ABL I always talk about. No matter what you're doing in life, always be learning, and ABT, always be testing. Always test something new. Always be learning something new, because even if they're wrong, screw it. Ignore what they said that's wrong. F them. Forget them. But if you can get one gold nugget from them, if you watch an hour-long webinar, it's all worth it because now you've learned something new that you can add to your roster to be successful. Let's see. Yes, there will be a replay on YouTube, so that's fantastic. That's why I keep looking over here every once in a while, as I'm also talking to YouTube. Are you targeting traffic for dropshipping websites via SEO, S&M, if you prefer one or the other? So Shopify is great, and one of the reasons I do enjoy it because SEO is a lot of times already built into a lot of what Shopify does, especially with the Shopify domain. So you can take care of a lot of that stuff. I use product descriptions that are very repetitive of what I'm using. I try to use blogs and influencers that do blogs, Pinterest. I try to put myself on different web channels and sales channels that are out there. Even if I don't necessarily want to make sales on them, like I'd rather not make an eBay sale. I'd rather not make an Amazon sale. Not because people don't do well with them. People freaking crush it with those things. But they take a little bit more profit than Shopify does, and I don't want to deal with that. Also not as automated as Shopify. So, but they all add backlinks, right? And they all kind of come back to my site. So I do use SEO, but a lot of it's already done for me. I would say a majority of what I do, though, is now built through ads, Instagram ads, through influencers, Facebook ads, as well as the fact I've been able to build an email list from new stores, old stores, promotions that I run, things like that. And that's how I get kind of more of my organic traffic, more so than like spending $1,000 for someone to go through and do all this SEO work on my website. Yeah, GoDaddy is it's one of those obvious ones, but also it's sometimes the simplest answer, or most simple. So that's a good question. So the question is, isn't drop shipping way more saturated now? So it's more difficult, right? Yes, it is way more saturated now than when I first started. Absolutely. Does it matter? No. I have, if only, and not to say it's maybe because I didn't mess up a little bit when I first started, but my profits have only gone significantly up since I started a few years ago. The amount of apps, the amount of tools to make things easier to use has only gone up. Let's see, what else? The amount of items, the amount of vendors that are willing to help on drop shipping have gone up. So even though it's become more saturated, the market is now easier to penetrate. And I really haven't seen a lot of negative repercussions. And again, that's why you do want to be a little bit more careful. Like I mentioned earlier, you can get away and sell anything if your advertising's right. You can sell those damn fidget spinners that everyone's still trying to sell, even though the trend has kind of gone down quite a bit. Even if you look on Google Trends, that's not just something I'm making up. The Google Trends shows it has gone down significantly. But you can still sell those things, right? Even if you're good enough. But being a little bit more unique with your items, whether you're going general or niche, is huge because that's what's going to get you. That's what's going to get you those major profits. X-commerce is going to change the game? Hell yeah, it is. If you guys don't know what X-commerce is, I'm not selling you anything. There's nothing to be sold. In fact, right now it's a lot of it's just starting with a group of people all helping each other be successful, and it's going to grow from there. It's not a course. It's nothing like that. It's just something brand new. So I encourage you to jump in the Telegram group. I'll also connect you with a different main Telegram group as well that really does go into a lot more with it and give you some links and stuff to be able to access that stuff, because that is for anyone that's doing online e-commerce stuff, it's definitely going to be a game changer for sure. Yeah, I did. I changed a lot the people that I hung around with. I think when I first started this and I first sold the first company and made money, for me it was, let me just hang out with anybody. And I think I started to realize who was fake, who wasn't fake. Even more so, I don't even care if somebody's fake. If they want to pretend they have more money than they have or do more than they have, like that, I'm sorry for them, but whatever makes them happy, that's no big deal. But at the same time, like I want to make sure they have the right intention. Like if they're not being completely honest with themselves because it makes them happier, but they're also trying to do everything they can to help other people. I mean, I can semi support that, right? But at the end of the day, I think first of all, how I saw people and their intentions changed. It all became down to what is your intention. First of all, are you looking on your way up, or are you on your way out, right? Are you trying to grow yourself and become more and make more money and do better things and have a purpose for it? Or are you kind of happy where you are and plateauing? Or are you going down, right? So I always try to find people now, especially over the years as my income has grown, finding more and more people that are doing on a much higher level than I am. On the other side of things, also like I mentioned, intention, right? Are they just doing it because they want money? Well, that's cool. I mean, I support that. Whatever makes you happy, but at the same time, I don't think long term that's going to make them happy. What are they making money for? Is it because they want to get back? Is it because they have some motivation behind it into a better lifestyle that they want to give their family or give themselves, right? You got to have good intention behind what you're doing, and so those are kind of the traits I'm looking for. But absolutely, I mean, my networking group has changed significantly, and don't get me wrong, I still try to network with people even if they make less money than me, because they're on their way up, like I mentioned, right? So even if they're making less money than me, I don't shun them off and say, well, I'm not going to talk to you. Who cares, right? Because I want to see where they're going. Like there's people out there. Heck, one of them is posting in this chat group right now, Jet Set Fly. Where he's definitely younger than I am. I don't know who makes more money, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, this guy's like 19, and I know by the time he's my age, he's gonna have way more money than I do at my age. So that's someone I want to be around, right? Someone on their way up, and so that's something I would encourage. Always look for someone. You want to find that group of people. You want to find an even distribution between people below you. You can help people with you and people above you, but also just keep in mind the people below you aren't necessarily always below you, because they might be way ahead of you, even if they're not necessarily ahead of you, if that makes sense. Let's see, to find these people higher than you just try to contact. A lot of them actually came naturally. Yeah, there were a few that I just reached out to, but a lot of them just came naturally through hanging out with one person, brought me to another person, which brought me to another person. Do you monitor how many people are selling already, or look for products that can easily rank? Yeah, so specifically I look at reviews, so I do compare things on different websites. Again, I'll look at some of the big websites. I definitely look at purchases, how many people have purchased. So if I'm trying to source something off AliExpress or Amazon, I'll see how many purchases this thing have. Then I'll look at reviews. How many reviews does it have? And what's the average review rating? And then I'll go through those, and I want to look at the verified reviews, because like any site, I'm sure a lot of you people know that are on this right now, right, that people can fake sites, they can buy sites, or sorry, not sites, buy reviews, fake reviews, things like that. So I do go through and I look at the verified ones to make sure they're good. And then from there, it's really about testing, and that's kind of what I have to do, is I have to test it myself to see if I can replicate the results that they have from their sales. In addition to that, again, another thing I do is I look at Facebook. I will look up Facebook ads. So if I see a heart necklace or a silver heart necklace, for example, I'll go into Facebook search bar. I'll type in silver heart necklace. I'll look at posts. I'll look at ads, different filters you can have, and I'll see how they're doing. Because if they're doing well, then I can see, oh, that's probably something I want to replicate. Or if other people are doing them and they never had good results, maybe it's because they suck at advertising, or maybe because it's not a good item. So there's no easy way to be like, boom, this for sure is a winning target. But there are little tips and tricks and things you can look at that can point you in the right direction. Obviously, if I'm looking at something and it has terrible reviews, if I'm looking at something that doesn't have a lot of orders, then it might not be a hot item. Profit margins could be huge. But again, sometimes I don't take huge profit margins. Sometimes I lose money because I'm trying to build an email list. Usually when I start a new store, which is great for people starting new stores, an email list, a targeted audience, maturing that pixel a little bit faster. And I know not everybody has the money to do this, and that's okay. But like I'll do free plus shipping offers. I'll do offers where I am advertising things, and I sell them for literally the amount it costs, if not sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And really my main goal out of that, again, is maturing the pixel and getting their email addresses and starting to build that brand a little bit and kind of build some hype around everything. So, doing giveaways, for example, I've done a ton of giveaways for new stores, and those are all things that help significantly grow your profits in the long term, even if they hurt you a little bit in the short term. But if you have some extra money to play around with, giveaways are another huge thing I'd suggest. I mean, even if you're just thinking about regular influencers, right? Look at some of the biggest influencers out there. And they don't even need to be big influencers, right? So even if you look at like Richard Branson and those guys that are just huge, and not necessarily saying that they go out and they say, oh, buy my stuff all the time on Instagram and on Twitter and all that, right? But they do still give giveaways in order to build their personal brand, in order to build their company's brands. They do giveaways on their sites from them. So those are all things to consider, right? Those are something that the biggest names out there do in order to quickly grow and scale their own pages. So it's something I would recommend. Cool, guys. Well, we're coming up on the time. Anyone have any other questions? Hell yeah, of course. Like I said, this will be recorded. We talked a lot about scaling. We talked a lot about liquidity in business. We talked about LLC and some of the advantages and disadvantages of it. So I will encourage everybody to rewatch this again as well. So, and I will find a way to post the link, or I'll post it to my story actually, so that way everybody can watch the YouTube link as well in case you need to go through, you didn't get to catch this whole thing, or maybe you want to review something that I said earlier. Your link your customers click on Instagram using an influencer. Are you able to make the link send the customers straight to the checkout? Let's see. Click on Instagram. So the only way I've been able to do that is if it's a swipe up. So if hopefully your influencer has over 10,000 followers, I would think. Again, I don't like being absolute at all or thinking in absolutes, but I usually don't go below 70. So they should hopefully have a swipe up. If they do, then yeah, I always swipe up and have them go directly to the product page as opposed to my Instagram and then somewhere else. And there are some advantages to that, but really in my head, most people have ADD. If you've met me in person, I'm pretty like boom, boom, boom all over the place in like 8 different directions at one time. I need to be, otherwise I start losing my mind. So in a productive way, of course. But having them go directly there cuts out a lot of steps of having them go through a lot of processes. Unfortunately, with Instagram, as you probably know, you can't have them. You can't really post a link in like a post or on like the Instagram ad portion of it. So you would need to direct them back to your site from there. And then in your Instagram bio, if you are doing that, if you're advertising your store, then of course have your store's link on there. If you're advertising a particular product with influencers, I would encourage you to have that particular product on that bio link, so that way you don't have to go all the way, have them go through extra steps again to find it on your store. All right. Cool, guys. Well, as we wrap up, last thing I want to talk about is, let's see, and feel free to ask more questions too if you got anything on there as we leave the last 2 minutes. One thing I did want to let you guys all know about, and I'll make sure I'm talking to YouTube too, is we have a new program coming out. Again, I'm not selling you on it. I don't even have it available to sell right now. It's just great to know about. That I have seen and that I think I'm going to be interested in using as well. It's going to be called Zengage. It's basically an engagement group. For those of you that don't know, engagement groups are essentially messaging groups that people share photos with one another. It's in Instagram's algorithm, so if you can get enough accounts to like your picture within like the first 10 minutes of you posting it, you're going to be getting rewarded basically with extra organic engagement. So right now, engagement groups, at least in 2017, are the number one way to exploding your Instagram, right, and growing that, which I know is something I get asked a lot on, like how to do, and obviously using targeted hashtags and all of those things I think are huge. So I think going into one of the other calls, I do want to talk about another program that's out there called Zengage as well. because it is one of the ones I recommend. And eventually, I think I'll post the link. That way, everyone can kind of see that. It's something that I do want to go through, and I'm going to be testing because it's going to be huge to growing your impact, to growing your influencers, to working with other people, growing your pages, whether you're doing drop shipping or anything else. And frankly, I mean, it's something I'm very likely to invest in as well because it's going to be fantastic. I cut off, and that sucks because I ran out of my 2 minutes. But anyways, that's something I'll talk about a little bit next time. One thing I do want to encourage everybody: if you have any questions, you know me, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm going to recommend something if I do recommend it. I'm not going to attach an affiliate link. If it's something else that I'm involved in, I'm going to let you know about it. Whatever the case is, I try to be as transparent with everybody as possible. I'm not trying to pull some shady shit with anybody. I really do want to help you guys. I really do want to knowledge drop and all that stuff. The sprinkle and the knowledge meme, all of that kind of stuff. So please reach out to me with any questions that you have or anything that you come up with, because I want to see every single person be a part of Team Money. I want to see every single person on here, be able to make a great income and be able to do very well for themselves. And you can only do that by asking a lot of questions. You can do it all yourself, and you can make mistakes, and you can waste money, and you can waste time, or you can just ask somebody questions, right? So that's why I like the Telegram group, because it's a group of people. So even if I can't respond fast enough, you have a group of people helping you. If I can respond fast enough, then obviously I'll help you. But the Telegram group is basically just everybody helping each other. And it also helps me, because it basically helps if there's anything I've always wanted to test but haven't gotten the time to, or maybe didn't want to spend the money on it, somebody else test it. And if it does well, I'm like, great, I'm going to use it. And if it doesn't do well, I'm like, great, I'm glad you tested it, not me. And I'm able to drop some of that, reciprocated knowledge as well back for everybody else. So, if you're not already, join the Telegram group. There is another contest for 2 more hours. Basically, I'm giving a free coaching call, as well as mentioning what 3 of my top 10 products are that I sold so far this year for 2017 and have done the best for me. None of them are fidget spinners. Don't worry, it's not a dead trend. If you post it to your story on Instagram and link it to your bio, or if you have enough followers on Snapchat to be influential, and you do a swipe up on your Snapchat and screenshot that for me and send it to me, and leave it there for 24 hours, same with Instagram, then I will, I'm going to assign everyone that does that a number, use a random number generator, pick a random winner, and then, just do 15 minutes of talking dropshipping, e-commerce, wherever the heck you want to in particular, talking about the top 3 of my 10 products, as well as, if you want to spend that 15 minutes going over targeting for those or whatever, then that's completely up to you, whatever you want to do there. So some of the biggest takeaways, I will be obviously posting this YouTube video again. Really just keep an eye out for Zengage. I think that's something that's going to help change everything that we do with influencers and Instagram, and the way that you grow your account, even your business account, your personal brand, whatever it is. And join my Telegram group. I think that's it. So other than that, guys, I hope you guys are crushing it. I hope this was informative for you in some sort of way. That's what the main reason for this is. If you have any suggestions on topics to cover in the future, DM me those as well, because I want to make sure these are as useful and productive as possible. Beyond that, guys, I'm going to go back to Minneapolis and see what's around here. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll be talking to you soon. YouTube, I appreciate you joining. I'm sorry I paid a little bit more attention tonight to our Instagram live camera than I did to you guys, but I still appreciate you. I'm hoping you guys were able to take away a lot of the information from this as well. In addition, if you're on this, leave a comment, talk about whatever it is else that you want me to discuss, maybe on a future call as quick knowledge drops, so we can go through those, as well as a Q&A section. I'll be more than glad to do that. Hope you're still killing it, and I'll be talking to you soon.